London's ultra-low emission zone is being expanded today, with all motorists in Greater London being charged £12.50 a day if their car doesn't meet the green standards set by the Mayor. Clean air campaigners are celebrating the expansion, but some residents and businesses have been protesting its introduction. So, should motorists stop moaning and stop polluting? Susan?
I intend to carry on moaning along with all the other people who are moaning about it. I think Sadiq Turpin, we could call him. Do you know the Dick Turpin? Do you know who Dick Turpin was? The highway robber of old who used to stop the stagecoaches. I think this is just an excuse to print money. And if people watching this who are outside London haven't experienced what is going on in London with all the different measures against motorists and think it's just a London issue, be warned, because I do think it is coming for a town near you once they realise how much money they can make. And that is what it's about, if you ask me.
What do you think, Esther?
It has happened in other towns. It's happened in Glasgow, Bristol and other places. The issue is because we live in a democracy, so we should be able to debate issues like this. One of the things that I have a huge problem with is the fact that this wasn't properly debated. It wasn't, put out in the public sphere for us to, share our thoughts on it. Sadiq Khan expressed that he received a lot of criticism before he, implemented this expansion of ULEZ. And he said, oh, actually, the people at the protest were neo-Nazis. And I just think what a disdain for the public, because they're genuinely people who are, tradesmen and old people that are vulnerable, that need their cars to get around, that are saying this is a tax on the working class. And for you to rubbish them off and rubbish their concerns and say that they're actually neo-Nazis is completely unacceptable. Another issue I have with this is because the links or the research between actually this, how much this will impact or improve the quality of air in sort of Greater London is so weak. You can't assume anything other than the fact that it's a money grab, because on the one hand you're saying actually this is going to lead to cleaner air, but on the other hand actually you're saying you can pollute as much as you want unless you can pollute as much if you're willing to pay me £12.50 a day.
And actually air has been getting cleaner. The pollution that we used to have,
the technology has improved. This is the point. So the technology has improved. It's going to keep improving. You can keep polluting so long as you line Sadiq Khan's coffers with £12.50 a day. I mean, really, there's so many things wrong with this expansion, but we're not allowed to talk about it because apparently we're neo-Nazis.
Okay, I feel like you two are in agreement with this one. So one person who is supporting the expansion of ULEZ and the Clean Air campaigner is former Deputy Mayor of London, Baroness Jenny Jones. Baroness, what do you say to people that think this is a bad idea?
I'm absolutely staggered with what I've heard from your other panellists, because it's clear that a lot of that is complete nonsense. In fact, this whole debate has been going on since 2015, when Boris Johnson was mayor and actually introduced the whole idea. But what he did was he kicked the can down the road by pushing it back to 2020, knowing probably that somebody else would be mayor and would have to implement it. Secondly, this is not a tax on the poor. In fact, it's the poor, the people on lowest income who suffer most from air pollution. They have to live where the rents are lower, and that's always near polluting roads. And it's all very well if you live in Leafy Maida Vale or somewhere like that. But if you live near the M25 or farther out, then you are going to suffer. Even on the government website, it says that, excuse me while I read the figures, 28 to 36,000 people are dying every year from air pollution. Now, that strikes me as a public health issue. And if we aren't prepared to clean up our air, then we have to accept that we are causing the deaths of an awful lot of people. Not just deaths, it's also health problems of all kinds, strokes and asthma and Alzheimer's, all sorts of lung disease, cancer. And of course, children who live near polluted roads, they can die prematurely, but also their lungs become stunted, which gives them lifelong health problems. We've always got to remember Ella Kissy Deborah, who lived near a very heavily polluted road, and she died from air pollution. She was the first person to have air pollution as a cause of death on her death certificate. And so to say that this is not a public health crisis is really not to understand the situation.
But Jenny, I just want to butt in here, because actually we have seen emails we have seen emails now where scientists are really sort of questioning the validity and how much impact that ULEZ has. So does that not make you question how much of an impact this would have? Also, to the panel's point that actually we're not saying that you can't pollute the city. What we're saying is if you'd like to pollute the city, you need to pay us £12.50, and there's no say on where that money's going to go.
Well, I think that the mayor is probably going to bring in even more measures to actually make things healthier. I just can't understand anybody who wants to drive a dirty, polluting vehicle knowing that it's going to cause other people health problems. I just don't understand it. And about scientists who may or may not have a different view, quite honestly, the scientists I respect from Imperial College and for example, what do you say about the government website? Presumably that was from some scientists as well. Imperial College did some research back in 2019 about London specifically and said that if ULEZ was brought in, children would live 6 months longer and 4,000 fewer Londoners would die every year. I don't see how that is not a crisis. I don't see how anybody can justify driving a dirty vehicle. It's absolutely selfish and nonsensical.
That's fine. Maybe you don't have family. Maybe you don't have families to feed, so that's fine. The research you're citing, there was a Freedom of Information Act that actually unveiled the emails sent between someone who worked in Sadiq Khan's office and the research team that they actually paid to conduct the research to actually verify the validity of the ULEZ expansion and how much impact it will have on cleaner air in London. And actually, the team said they concluded that the findings were that the impact on cleaner air in London would be negligible.
Yeah, negligible.
Someone from Sadiq Khan's office messaged this person and said, and
they were disappointed.
They were disappointed, and they wanted to basically massage what they found so that it didn't actually sound as bad. And the reality is none of the money that we've seen from ULEZ has actually gone into any sort of greener environmental policies. In Germany, in a northern city in Germany called Köln, they actually have air filtration systems at the end of every street. And it's an experiment that they were doing, that they funneled a lot of the money that they got from road taxes and all of that to actually try and improve the air quality in urban areas. We've not seen any of that money. We've not seen any of those initiatives.
And also,
this is just going to plug the hole in London's massively growing debt.
And also, I could take exception, and I do take exception to being called selfish when we talk about things. And the do you not care about children's health and children's lungs being used against people constantly? I do care about people. We all care about people, and certainly we care about growing children. And growing children in families where people can't make a living and can't get to work and are being punished for trying to do their daily jobs in cars that may be a bit older than other cars and they can't afford to run one. Where is the concern for the harm it's going to cause and the hardship it's going to cause? Those sorts of families and those sorts of children. Nobody talks about that. So you can make statistics and figures, which is what Sadiq Khan has done. Make your argument by looking at it one way or another.
I want to get a call on, but Jenny, just quickly, when you look at what's been put in place by Sadiq Khan, the scrappage scheme, for example, do you think that goes far enough? Because Susan's got a point. People have to earn a living to be able to feed their families. That's their first priority.
I have been told that you can actually buy a compliant vehicle for £2,000, which is what
of course you've been told
scheme is. Could you ask your panelists not to speak over me because I can't follow what's happening in the studio if they keep talking. And I didn't realise that that they were driving polluting vehicles. I didn't mean to call them selfish. I was calling drivers of polluting vehicles selfish. You can't argue with the government statistics. You can't argue with the scientists who are saying this is a really big public health problem. And what we have to do is understand that this has been a culture war stoked up by the government that is absolutely desperate to keep some votes before the general election. And so they've actually been putting all this nonsense out there. And actually, you've got to remember our government does not care about the UK population. They do not care about its health. They have trashed the NHS. They have actually made it harder and harder for people to live. And so if we're going to fix something, let's fix the government.
Yeah, let's tax people more and make it easier for them to live.
Esther, I want to take some calls. Eric from Surrey, what's your thoughts on ULEZ? Are you going to be affected? Presumably so.
Oh, very much affected. I mean, my car is out of date in relation to the pollution side of things, and I've looked into this to replace my car for the cheapest car, which has only got 3 years left on it, second-hand car that's only got 3 years left on it so I could drive it in for the next 3 years is £4,500. Now, I live in Surrey, so I don't get any scrappage money, and I'm only half a mile outside the zone. Now, going on the money cow business, right, if you were to draw a straight line from the A3 in Tolworth/Surbiton to the M25, so you will go through a place called Hook, then Chessington, a straight road it is, there's no turns off, there's a straight road, lots of traffic going down to the M25. When you come off the A3 onto that road, you go into Hook, no no pollution charges. As soon as you transfer from Hook into Chessington, then there's cameras, Eric, because of Chessington World of Adventures.
Well, you know what, Eric? Our dear guest here is telling you to get a quad bike with a roof. To be able to beat these charges.
So all those people that live in Tolworth, Hook, Surbiton, Epsom, Youghal, all those sort of people, all travel down this road if they want to get on the M25. For me, it's about 3 miles. So now I can't do that. I can go almost there, but then the charge comes in and then stops when you get past Chessington World Adventures. Okay.
I hear you've got a very specific problem here, Eric, but you have a problem with it generally. On your earlier point of you not being able to replace your car for the £2,000, I just want to go back to Jenny, because Jenny, you were told that there were vehicles that you could replace. Well, you've just heard from Eric. What do you say to that?
I would say that the problem we have, again, is with the government, because the government should be funding the scrappage scheme. It should not be for the Mayor of London to actually find the money somewhere. It should be a government. And Grant Shapps, who has clearly allowed the Mayor of London to go ahead with this scheme, has also refused to pay for any of the scrappage scheme. Now, I would argue that it's the government's responsibility to clean up the air nationally, because cleaning up the air in London is going to benefit everybody around London as well. So it goes back to we've got a problem, government.
OK, the government should put in more money for that. Eric, I hope you can find a solution. Claire from Glasgow, I mean, this is happening, similar things are happening all over the country. Tell me what's happening in Glasgow, Claire.
Yeah, I work for a charity in Glasgow, and locally we call it the poor tax. I think it's all very well saying that you can get a new car for £2,000, but I think no family in our area has £2,000 to spend on a new car. I appreciate it's different. We're in Glasgow, not London. But it is a poor tax, and people are struggling enough. The people who drive the cars that are going to be affected are old. They have older cars. They are poorer. From a charity's point of view, we have 3 vehicles in Glasgow, and we do food banks and children's activities. We can't use our vehicles. We as an organisation are spending tens of thousands of pounds to upgrade our vehicles just to be able to drive them. Well, and it must be even worse in London. It's ridiculous.
Claire, I think Jenny would accept and probably encourage the government to spend more money on the scrappage scheme. And we've had plenty of calls now to say that it doesn't go far enough to help people, and particularly for a charity like your own. But when you say that it is a poor tax, what Jenny said earlier is actually polluted air affects poorer areas far worse. So that's damaging health from the get-go. So
absolutely. I think the difficulty is, it is a difficult situation because, yes, it's damaging health, but some of these families are struggling to put meals on the table, and that's a much sort of stronger issue for them at the moment. Can they drive to work? Can they get their salary?
A more immediate issue, perhaps, Claire. But we need to clean up the air. How do we do that if we're not going to stop more pollutant vehicles coming into our city centres?
I think it needs to be switched around. Yes, there has to be charges for these vehicles coming in, but the brunt of it has to be taken by the people who can afford to pay these cars, whether it's across, it won't be popular, but whether it's increasing taxes in general,
so make it a wealth
based on salary income. It has to be, because at the moment it's affecting the poor.
The thing is,
in terms of them paying it as opposed to the...
Why is the solution to cleaning up air just taxing people? Because the thing is, it's not like we were seeing air filtration systems on every street corner. The money is not going to cleaning up the air. You're just finding an excuse to take money from people.
Okay, but Esther, this isn't a tax. This is trying to get more polluting cars off the road.
It's a tax and a fine
on the working class.
And actually what you do need to do, if you want to stop people, especially in big cities, using their cars more, you need to have a really great infrastructure and a reliable, trustworthy trustworthy one for public transport, that is also safe for people to use at any time of day or night. Then they won't need to use their cars as much. That's the way round to do it, and that's where the money should be going.
OK, Malcolm from West Sussex, what's your thoughts on this? We're kind of running out of time, but I want to get another caller in.
Yeah, OK, so I'm sorry about that.
No, it's not your fault.
Yeah, I live in West Sussex. Now, the idea of the M25 originally was a ring road round London, so all the big stuff that comes in, the big lorries, all the polluting vehicles would come to the M25. They would load onto smaller vehicles and go into London, yeah?
Yes.
After the M25 was built, they've put a lot more houses in, and the people who lived in London don't want the mess and live in more in the suburbs that travel in, yeah? But I think you've got to look after the future of the children. Children are the if you like, with
You're about to
the
quote
older
the song,
ones.
Malcolm.
Yeah.
You're about to quote the song, but that's fine. The children are the future.
But what I've got to say is we're the past and they're the future, and if we don't put in things now, it's going to be worse for them. So the MOTs in another 2 years' time will take these 05 plate cars out anyhow, because the emissions they produce won't pass MOT testing.
So you think this is maybe just jumping the gun a little bit? Should we have waited 2 years then?
Well, it's going to come anyhow, isn't it? Because these cars are so old, yeah.
But Malcolm, you understand that it is affecting people that can't afford it at the moment. We're in a cost of living crisis. That 2 year period may actually give somebody enough time to breathe, to save up the money to buy a vehicle that is more environmentally friendly.
Well, where I live in West Sussex, my local town, city, is 6 miles away, and I catch a bus for £2. I can't drive a car and park it in the city centre and pay £2 back.
Okay.
Okay. That sounds like you've got fairly good public transport, which is another complaint.
Yeah, but I would think the transport in London would be superb to what it is out here.
Well, I mean, the public
Depends
transport
on the day.
in London...
It depends on where.
But even on a bad day, I have to say, coming from Glasgow, it is far better than I have seen in the rest of the country. I think we are.
But that infrastructure isn't there in every town.
No, that's what I'm saying. Yeah. It's not. Malcolm, thank you very much for your call. Thanks for all your calls on this. A huge thanks to Jenny Jones for joining us for that debate.